Welcome, welcome, my dear, beautiful, wonderful sisters around the world. I am so happy to be with you every Saturday at 9 p.m. in South Africa and around the globe in your time zone, whatever it may be. On a Saturday night, spend it with me and you're going to have a good time, I promise. We have such amazing women to learn from, to know, to meet. And that's what I'm here for, to introduce you to some of these special, special people that I've had the absolute privilege to know. And today's show is not going to be any different. If you recall, our dear Madiba, that's Nelson Mandela to those who don't know the affectionate term we use, he once said, "Music is a great blessing. It has the power to elevate and liberate us. It sets people free to dream. Such is the value of music." Well, I couldn't agree more. And today I'm happy to introduce to you one of the most special people I have ever met, South Africa's premier concert pianist, performer, and recording artist, Sylvia Schulman. For 80 years, she has been a force in the classical music industry. This amazing and prolific, talented South African woman has worked as a concert pianist, a live performer, an accompanist. And if that isn't enough, she's even recorded broadcasts in Europe, in South Africa, everywhere across the world. And that's been since the 1940s. Oh, does she have stories from accompanying renowned singers for BBC Radio 50 years ago to her latest live concerts. And one is coming up in less than a month in Cape Town, where she still carries the show and performs for grateful audiences who are hungry for the greatest classical music ever written. Let me tell you a little bit about her. In 1925, Sylvia Schulman was born in Bulawayo, Rhodesia at the time, now Zimbabwe. Her life is one that books are written about, and I hope she's planning on doing just that. She was recognized as a prodigy very early on. She started playing the piano at 4 years old, and she says her extremely musical Jewish parents encouraged her. At 8 years old, her family moved to England so she could even get better education. And by 12, she was playing advanced pieces of music and was sent to a private boarding school in Cape Town, where she continued her studies. By her final year, she was chosen to play with the Cape Town Municipal Orchestra. And that was the beginning of what would become a limitless career in classical music and a life well lived. Let me introduce you to a musician like no other. Sylvia Schulman is a gem of South Africa who at 96 years young is someone we can all learn from and someone who knows what it takes to achieve excellence in all things, all the time. Welcome, Sylvia, to Womanosity for Women with Curiosity. I'm your host, Tadia Rice, and I am so happy to have you in the studio today.
Thank you, Tadia. Wonderful to see you and to hear you. Long time, I think, since we last met. But your introduction about me it's two.
Is it two? It's because you're two. That's why, my dear. Well, I can tell you now, Woman Radio is so happy to have you here. And I'm pleased that you are here for Womanosity because women are curious. We drive the world with our curiosity. And you were quite the curious woman. You began your career as a classical pianist. However, I also see credits where you accompanied English jazz singer and actress Dame Cleo Lane, as well as her husband, jazz composer and musician Sir John Dankworth. Can you tell us how you went from classical music to jazz? That's got to be a great story.
Well, actually, I cannot play jazz because we were living in England at the time in Bedford. That was after Cambridge. Not far away was where Cleo and John lived, and they ran these jazz 10 days course where people would go and he got together an orchestra, and then there would be sessions on jazz. And I wanted to learn something about jazz. I'm not a jazz pianist. I can't play. I'm not very good at improvising. And I thought, well, I'll just go and see what I can do. But before I could even get into a class, Cleo asked if there was anybody who could accompany. And the only person that answered was me. So, of course, that's what I do. I'm an accompanist. I think of myself as an accompanist more than anything else. So she called me in, and I had to play for all her students all the time. And I managed to get to one jazz session. And they plonked in front of me 12-bar bass. And this bass was just, some notes. And they told me to play something on top of this bass. And I sat there like a fool. I couldn't do a thing. I couldn't lift my hands. I didn't know what to do. I was just an idiot. And I felt terrible. So I learned nothing. I learned absolutely nothing. I should have been. So all I did was accompany. But then they did ask me to.
You may not have learned to play the bass viol, but my God, you accompanied her singing jazz. So clearly you can't say you didn't play.
No, it wasn't jazz. She and one of her students sang that famous duet, the Cats duet by Rossini, where they say meow, they each say meow and they scratch and all sorts of things. And I accompanied that at one of the concerts. Oh. And then they also asked me to play, so I played something. And I also accompanied clarinetist in the London Symphony Orchestra. And I played, we rehearsed once or twice, and I played something with him. And so that was a nice experience. But I learned nothing about jazz.
Well, that's quite a story, though, to be accompanying Cleo Lane, because she was a first lady of jazz for sure. So listen, I also want to talk to you about something else. And I know you don't think of yourself this way, but I do. I want to talk about your experiences being a revolutionary in South Africa during the old apartheid days. Now, you may not think that what you did was revolutionary. You may not put that word on it, but boy, I was so proud of you to know how brave and courageous you were. You mixed with different people. I want to know, how did that come about? Why did you take that brave step in the days when it was so dangerous, not only for women, but for Jewish women and for Black and white people to associate together? I mean, people went to jail, they were shot, all kinds of things happened. Tell me about your experience in apartheid.
My mother was very much against this division business. She used to stand up for the colored people and so on. And in fact, there's a story about that she was in a bus queue, and there was a colored woman at the head of the queue, and they were all waiting in the street, and a white man came along and pushed her out of the way and went into the top where she was before. And my mother picked him out, and she gave him hell. She said, she's a human being just like you are, and she's entitled to stand there, and made him go to the back of the queue. So when there were meetings of any high meetings, when people were all colors, if anybody came knocking at the door, all the Africans would put on aprons or dash into a cupboard or something and pretend that they were just working there. They were workers there. They were doing the housework or cooking the meals or whatever it was. They would pretend not to be guests. We were only allowed to have two white people at every Baha'i meeting. Couldn't have more.
Oh my. Sylvia, along with the demands of rehearsing and performing, you also had a husband and children. Where did you meet him, and what was this new life like after being a performer and now you're a married woman?
But my cousin, he lived in Salisbury, and she said, come and stay with us, with her and her mother in Salisbury. So that's what I did. I went up and I stayed with them. And it was whilst I was with them that we went out to dinner one night. And I had done ballroom dancing and ballroom dancing competitions as a beginner in Cape Town. And I also flew aeroplanes. And my salary was £7 something or other a month, half of which I had to give my mother. And so I couldn't afford to carry on with both dancing and flying.
Wait a minute. Let's step back to flying. You became a pilot?
Yes.
I had no idea. Oh, that's another story. Okay, why did you become and when did you become a pilot? After being a classical pianist, you choose piloting airplanes, aviation?
Well, that was just for fun. I mean, it was just a pastime. It wasn't commercial. I had to pay for it, and so because I had to pay for it, I didn't have enough money to pay for that and dancing. That was the point. I went on holiday to Port Elizabeth once, stayed in a hotel, and met a whole lot of ex South African Air Force men who were there on holiday. And one of them took me up to another town where he was going to give flying lessons. So he said, "You want to come with me?" So I said, "Yes." So I went with him. And on the way there, he gave me a few pointers how to let me fly the plane a bit, And then we went to this place. And it's easy to fly when you're already in the air. It's the taking off and landing that's difficult. No, taking off is easy. Landing.
That's so true. So you got into flying as a hobby. How amazing. So now fast forward and tell me, where did you meet this husband, this man you married, with whom you had two beautiful children, Mark and Odette? Tell me about that.
I went up to Salisbury and stayed with my cousin, and we were out one day at dinner at this family, and they started talking about ballroom dancing and Sue Benatar. So my husband's name was Salvatore, but his nickname was Sue because his Hebrew name was Yeshua. Joshua, also same name as Jesus, actually. Everybody called him Sue.
So Sue was also Sephardic Jewish?
He was Sephardi, I was Ashkenazi.
I see. Okay. And so were you part of the same large Jewish community?
When I met Sue and we got together, I used to go with him to the Sephardic synagogue.
Okay.
And then we got married in Sephardic. But
Okay.
anyway, what happened was that they told me that the Sue was a ballroom dancer, and he was an advanced amateur champion ballroom dancer, and I should get in touch with him. So I went to the house where I knew his sister was. Turned out it was his house. It was an ex-serviceman's house. And I met him, and he invited me to come to the next ballroom session, which was on a Tuesday, I remember. And he came to fetch me on his bicycle, and I rode on the crossbar,
We're talking about
we went dancing, and he
after World War II?
Yes, 1948. Yeah, 1948. And so he liked the way I danced, even though he was an advanced amateur and I was virtually a beginner. But he liked the way I moved, and he asked me if I'd be his partner. I was very flattered. And so I used to go to all the classes and we danced together. And then we had mutual friends who didn't live far from his house. We used to visit them. And the wife said to me one day, "You should marry him." So I said, "But he hasn't asked me to marry." So she goes there. She says to him in front of me, "Why don't you ask Sylvia to marry you?"
Oh my goodness.
Oh, did.
Well, so you did. He did, and you did. He asked, you said yes. And years later, and two children later. Now, I read somewhere that you didn't play piano for 5 years after you got married. Why?
Right. We got married 6 weeks after we met. So we had the wedding in Salisbury with the Sephardic rabbi and so on. So that was how we got married.
All the many, many pieces that you played of the classics, what's one of your favorites that you've actually performed?
I think the Chopin Waltz in C sharp minor.
Lovely. So let's take a listen to the Chopin Waltz in C sharp minor, played by my remarkable guest, Sylvia Schulman, from her CD, Some of My Favorite Things. Let's listen to that, friends. We'll be right back with Sylvia Schulman.
Hello, hi, muraho, mwaramutse, mumeze mute. My name is Hope Azeda. I'm an artist from Kigali, Rwanda. You are listening to Woman Radio. I am listening to. Welcome, murakaza neza.
It's really a delight to be a part of Woman Radio, to have the opportunity to learn and to meet so many distinguished women from literally around the world who share their life experiences, their joys, in such a wonderful program to the women of the world, not just here, but women of the world. Thank you, Woman Radio. This is Sandra Sims speaking from Honolulu, Hawaii. Aloha and mahalo.
Welcome back, friends. I'm Tadia Rice, your host for Womanosity, for Women with Curiosity on Woman Radio, broadcasting globally 24/7. We are here for you, and we are so good we are so happy you are here with us today. My guest, Sylvia Schulman. It sounds almost like she's had a charmed life, but not so. It's far from it. During the apartheid years, it wasn't easy being Jews in South Africa. And when her son decided to marry a Malay woman from Cape Town, they were not allowed. So they had to move to England to marry and have a family. And that's where they remained. Sylvia enjoyed a beautiful, beautiful marriage with her husband, Sue. That was not really his name. It was Yeshua, but everyone called him Sue and everyone loved him. But unfortunately, 47 years of marriage ended tragically when Sylvia became a widow and lost her very strong and loyal life partner. Sylvia, tell me a little bit more about Sue, your husband of 47 years. What happened to him, and then what did you do after he passed?
Well, he got a disease of leukemia, a very rare form of leukemia called hairy cell leukemia, where he needed blood transfusions all the time to replace the blood that was being eaten up by these hairy cells. And eventually they couldn't get rid of the hairy cell. There was a drug that was on the market in the United States, but it hadn't been tested in South Africa yet. And so it couldn't be used here. And that would have helped, apparently. He died.
But then at 72 years old, there you were, a new widow, and you were invited to go to Johannesburg to take a very responsible position at the National Baha'i Center.
It was wonderful because I'd been wanting to leave, and go somewhere else. And out of the blue, what a wonderful opportunity. So I was employed at the age of 72. There's a funny story attached to this because the manager decided that they were going to draw up call it a contract for people who came to work there, and whoever came, and they would have to sign to say that they would retire at the age of 65. So I said, I started to work here when I was 72. What are you going to do with me?
What do you wish people understood why the work of music and piano, especially in your case, is so important? What do you learn from such a discipline?
Well, of course, like any job, you learn how to work hard. It's a lot of practice involved. You don't just get up and play. People think, oh, you can just get up and play, any old thing. You can't do that. You have to practice. When people come to the house and they want me to play, I say, well, I haven't practiced today. But I play, and I feel bad because I can't play it, perfectly when I haven't practiced. I have to practice. So that's the one thing you learn to work hard at whatever you do.
Discipline?
Yes, it's discipline. You have to be disciplined. But music itself, it's great for the spirit, and it's also very good for keeping you alive.
You're still doing full concerts.
And we've got one planned for next year as well.
Oh my goodness. Tell me about these concerts. What are they going to look like and sound like?
The one that we're doing in February is all Schubert. It's 13 Schubert Lieder, and then I'm playing 4 impromptus. So it'll be quite a concert. That's with Professor Dr. Bradley Wool. He's a professor at the College of Music in Cape Town. He is an American, when he goes home to America on holiday, he still plays there. And we've been working together for quite a few years, doing concerts here and there. And this one on the 27th of February will be here in Swellendam. And then we've got one planned for the new Swellendam Music Society for 2023.
Is there a theme for your 2023 concert? If Schubert is 2022, who are you going to play in 2023?
It's going to be quite different. Opera, film music, jazz music, and shows. Very varied, very varied.
That sounds so interesting. And do you play on a big grand piano?
Yes, it's very interesting because I have a Steinway Music Society in Swellendam. They had their first concert last month or the month before, and they asked me if I would play the first piece of the first concert of the Swellendam Music Society. So I played.
That is really wonderful. Is performing and making others happy with your music, is that spiritual for you? If so, how?
Definitely. I mean, you share with the audience, and making them happy makes you happy. It's the whole idea of playing for people is to give them pleasure and lift their spirits. Baha'u'llah said, God has made music a ladder for the soul to ascend to the heavens above.
Mm-hmm. So it's spiritual for you. When you're playing at the piano, is that part of your process?
No, it's making sure I play the right notes.
Here I'm expecting this esoteric explanation about how it's like praying. You want to make sure you hit the right notes.
No. It's much more physical than that.
Okay, well, what is spiritual about music for you?
It makes me happy, and it makes other people happy. That's spiritual. It lifts your spirits. The actual playing of it is a physical endeavor, and you have to concentrate on that. You don't think about anything else. Just concentrate on making sure you play it right.
What do you hope to do for women who want to be like you, want to be classical pianists? You have really become a successful mentor to many of them. What is it you hope they learn?
I think they should learn to take care of themselves. Is the first thing. You have to be well. You have to be fit and healthy. So think hard about what you eat and how you live your life to be as well and healthy as possible, so that you can go and work long hours to prepare yourself to play for people and lift their spirits. It's a question of endeavor. Nothing happens just like that. Like people think you just get up and do it. You don't just get up and do it. It's hard work. But you do it because you love it, and you love to give other people pleasure. People think because you're old you can't do anything. It's nonsense. People ask me, oh, do you still drive a car? Oh, do you still use a computer? It's rubbish like that.
It is true. Younger people underestimate older people. They don't realize we've had all this experience. We know a whole lot more than we let on. That's for sure.
When you play the piano, I play the piano better now than I did before, because it's obvious that as you get more experience, you're going to get better at it, not worse. But they think because you're older, you're going to be decrepit or something and can't do anything. It's nonsense. You get better.
Well, you certainly have gotten better with age. Another one of the great artists that you love to perform is Rachmaninoff. And of course, Rachmaninoff wrote some of the most difficult music ever. So we're going to listen to you, Sylvia, playing Rachmaninoff's Prelude in C sharp minor. Enjoy, folks. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Moshavi, my name is Kerishi Tendero from Namibia, and you are listening to Womana Radio for well-organized men. I'm listening to.
Ich bin Leila Tavanaro Hedarian aus Wien und höre Woman Radio. Ich lerne so viel Interessantes von den Radiomoderatorinnen und liebe die Musik. Ich freue mich, dass ihr auch Woman Radio hört.
Hi, I'm Disero Mamabulo from Light of Africa, South Africa in Pretoria, and I listen to Women Radio when I want to learn new things or hear new music. The shows are always stimulating from on the couch to womanicity. There is always something interesting or inspirational. I'm glad you are listening too.
Womanosity is like a good cup of coffee with a new friend, somebody I'd never have a chance to meet. Sometimes it's a new idea or thinking about an old one in a new way. It's girlfriends, it's Tadia, and it's all good. This is American artist, writer, and girlfriend Jenny Cooley in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board Grown Conversations with your host Nompumelelo Ranaka, a safe space for us to unpack issues that affect us women over grown woman dialogue. Join me every Monday from 10 o'clock South African time, only on Woman Radio, well organized man for we are.
Hello, my sisters around the world. This is Fran Jamaat coming to you from Los Angeles, California. I'm so happy to be connected to you through Woman Radio and especially Womanosity. I listen as often as I can, and I hope you will too.
No man is an island. Ladies, let's open up and discuss issues, whether good or bad. Platforms are there. Woman Radio happens to be just one of them. I'm inviting you on the couch to further discuss areas of concern every Thursday from 10 a.m. South African time to 12 noon. On the couch with me, Yvonne Chaka Chaka, here on Woman Radio, well-organized man for we are.
Meet me at the party on the couch.
Welcome back, friends. We are here again with Sylvia Schulman, 96 years young, living in Cape Town and getting ready to do another concert on her beautiful grand piano. And it will be featuring classical piano compositions from the greats. So Sylvia, you work with young musicians from time to time when you do orchestras and symphonies. What would you tell them about the business of performing, the business of competitions, of how to become noticed, of how to become famous if that's what they really want? What would you tell them?
Well, it's really a question of so many things that might work and might not work. I mean, it depends what you want as well. Do you want to be? I don't want to be I never did want to be a solo pianist traveling the world and jetting around all over the place. I couldn't stand a life like that. Not nice. And but if you want to do that, then you must enter competitions and try to be at the top of the competitions. You know, there are plenty of those going on, and you have to be good, because they're pretty good, these people who enter the competitions. You have to be really, really good. But otherwise, playing the piano, unless you're going to sit in a hotel and play background music for people where you get paid for doing that, just, you can't exist on concerts. You don't get paid enough. You know, it just doesn't work. It's not a good profession. Musicianship, music is not a good profession, not to make money. So because of the work involved and because of the opportunities, there just aren't the opportunities.
Yeah, less and less nowadays because of the electronics and technology. You know, sampling music can sound just as good as anything live. It's quite amazing, actually. So, okay, that's good. Well, what about for women in the commercial music space? The old boys club still dominates. So, how can women musicians break into live orchestra work or studio work?
Well, as long as they're not pianists, because for pianists, there's nothing. There are no pianos in an orchestra, so you have to play an orchestral. My niece is with the Oxford Philharmonic Orchestra in England. She's a clarinetist. She plays clarinet. That's fine. But if you're a pianist, there aren't orchestral opportunities. Nothing, because you don't have a pianist in an orchestra, and you have to be able to play an orchestral instrument. Then you just apply to different orchestras wherever you can and see what you get. I don't know anything any other way. And promote yourself. You have to promote yourself and try and do concerts in various places.
It's still a boys' club, isn't it?
I think there are lots of women. If you look at orchestras, there are plenty of women in the orchestras. As I say, my niece is an orchestral player, as a clarinetist. She does okay, and she's got some students as well. So she doesn't do too badly. But generally speaking, there aren't that many jobs, There aren't so many orchestras all over the place.
Oh, how discouraging. That's awful. We need music more than ever now. And yet, live music is so hard to come by. But not so long ago, you became a recording artist. You actually produced your very first CD of 12 pieces of music, of which we're going to listen to about 4 of them today. How was that experience for you?
I'm just sitting there by myself in a studio with a page turner, and I played my pieces, and then I had to go again the next day to edit them to make sure that everything, and and if there's a mistake, they just take a note and they put another note in. You can clean everything up and make it sound as if it's absolutely perfect and that you played it perfectly, but you didn't. There's a story about Arthur Schnabel, who recorded something or other, and there were a few errors, and so they wanted him to edit and change it and put the right notes in and so on and so forth. He says, no. He says, it wouldn't be the same. He said what he played was what he wanted, the way he wanted it to sound, and if there were a few errors, too bad. And he wasn't going to have it edited. He refused.
That is very interesting. Was there anything about the process, being that you're in a studio, there's no audience, there's no energy from people, it's kind of a cold atmosphere. The process of recording is so different than live playing. I would imagine you prefer live playing?
Yes, I think so. It's not really different. You're still playing the same pieces in the same way. Of course, you don't have an audience listening to you, but I think it's more or less the same. It's just that you have to be extra careful when it's being recorded, because every mistake you can hear, but then you have to do the editing afterwards to make sure that you get rid of the mistakes. It's a different thing. But whilst you're playing, it's really no different from playing for an audience. It's just that the atmosphere is different because there's no audience,
Mm-hmm. Does that affect you? Do you think that affects your playing in any way?
I don't think so. I'm still trying to play as if there is an audience,
Mm-hmm.
The broadcasting that I've done is, apart from that one CD I've done, has usually been accompanying people. They are the important part of it.
So is that your comfort zone, accompanying people?
I love accompanying people. I love accompanying because I like working with other people. It's more satisfying to do music with others, like chamber music or whatever, with other people playing with you, rather than just by yourself.
Mm-hmm. I can see that. I understand that. If you could go back in time and meet any composer, who would you want to meet?
I don't know. You mean one of the great composers?
Any
that
any
everybody-
composer, any musician.
I'd like to meet Brahms and Schumann, both of those. Brahms and Schumann.
Why? Is there a reason?
Their lives were slightly in touch with each other because of Clara Schumann. She was the wife of Robert Schumann.
Well, what would you ask them?
What would I ask them?
Yes.
I don't know. I just ask them about their lives. I don't know what I'd ask them.
Put this off the top of your head. What would you ask them?
I'd ask them to tell me how they felt about their lives, about what happened in their lives, and just a story, just their story.
So here you are, Sylvia Schulman. You are 96 years old. You were married for 47 years. You've had children. You lost your husband. You lost your son. You've seen many people come and go in many places where you have lived and visited. And when it's all said and done, and you look back on your life now, is there anything you would have done differently?
I think I should not have left Johannesburg. I still feel I should not have left Johannesburg. I left a good job. I didn't have to worry about money. I left a beautiful home. I sold my beautiful home. And I should have stayed. I think they would still have me there because every now and then I get calls still asking me questions. I think I would still be working. Maybe more easily, maybe not such long hours, but I think I would still have been working there. Yeah, they kept phoning me for ages after I left. No, I think they'd have me. They'd still have me, and then probably I would retire on a pension, or something like that. But then there have been some lovely things that have happened here as well.
Swellendam is where in South Africa, for our friends who don't know where Swellendam is. Can you explain where it's located?
Yes, it's in the Western Province. It's along from Cape Town. You go east for 224 kilometers, I think, out of Cape Town. And it's on the Garden Route. I think it's the second oldest town or the third oldest town in South Africa. The oldest town is Cape Town, then there's Stellenbosch, and then there's Swellendam.
I didn't know that. I didn't realize it was that old. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
And very small compared to Johannesburg.
Johannesburg, of course, is a couple of thousand kilometers away. If you went straight from Johannesburg to Swellendam, drove without stopping, I think it's about 14 hours.
Yeah, that's a long drive. What did you like most about Johannesburg?
Well, I liked my job. That was the first thing. And I liked working with the Gauteng choristers, that lovely choir. I'm still in touch with them. They still miss me. They used to call me back to play for their competitions. I'd have to fly back to Joburg every now and then to play for their competitions. And I still hear from them. From the conductor, Cyril. So that was one of the things that I liked about Joburg.
One of those three composers that we talked about that you love the most, one of them is Enrico Granados. And you perform his beautiful composition called The Maid and the Nightingale. Let's take a listen, folks. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
When I want thought-provoking programs to listen to, I pull up Women Radio. I especially appreciate the fascinating women who are interviewed on Womenosity, and Tadia gives one food for thought. My name is Kwezi Fudu Tsanenda, and I live in Johannesburg. And Women Radio is a lively and lovely way to spend my time.
Hi, this is Miata in California, and I'm listening to Woman Radio for well-organized men. I hope you are too.
Hello, everyone. We are back. This is Tadia Rice. You are with Womanosity for women with curiosity, like you and me and my most wonderful guest today, gem of South Africa, concert pianist Sylvia Schulman, 96 years young. So let me ask you, Sylvia, who are your heroes and why?
Arthur Rubinstein, but wonderful pianist. When I listen to his playing, I think that's what I like to sound like, you know. He's wonderful. Adib Taher-Zadeh, he's a Baha'i. Obviously, my heroes are going to be Baha'is, and his son, that I think are wonderful. Very knowledgeable and very kind, very warm people, you know. You feel kind of an affinity, a safeness with them, and very knowledgeable, very knowledgeable. Oh, my brother Cecil, he was a pilot during the war. He received a DFM for his work in Malta, and he was known as One Engine Schulman because he would always be coming back. He was a bomber pilot, and you know, bomber pilots were not allowed to attack. They could only defend themselves. They couldn't attack. Fighter pilots were for attacking, but bomber pilots were there to drop bombs. And he had wonderful stories. Mind you, he used to laugh at things that weren't really laughable, but I mean, they were laughable, but they were tragic as well. But there's wartime stories. He had a name for me. It was a whistle, and it sounded like Sylvia. Sounded like that. And there's a bird that comes here and whistles exactly like that. And I think my brother has got into that bird. He's calling me.
Maybe he's making his visits because he doesn't want you to forget him. Oh my gosh. So that is very interesting. How would you say you walk in the world?
I actually see myself walking on my own. That's when if I look at myself and walking, I'm walking on my own. I'm not attached to anything. I'm walking, and I'm walking carefully so I don't fall. I can't afford to fall and have an operation.
True, we don't want you to fall. We do not want you to do that. So let me ask you, because I think that every younger woman wants to know, what would you tell your younger self about love, life, and purpose?
Be sure, as far as love is concerned, of course, you're thinking of a lifetime partner, for instance. Be sure that you know the person as well as you possibly can, that you have the same way of thinking. That's the main thing about love. Life, well, you have to work. Life is not a bed of roses. It has its difficulties, but you can make it good by having a confident outlook on life, and listen to other people. Listen and learn from other people. Don't think that everything that you say is the right thing. Don't insist on people listening to you, but listen to other people as well. Learn. Life is a question of learning all the way through. If you're not learning, then your life is wasted.
That is very true. We are always learning. Well, now you were raised Jewish.
I was at boarding school, and all I knew about religion, apart from when I was younger and went to Hebrew classes, was that you had Shabbat on Friday night and you went to synagogue on Saturday morning, and that was it, you know. Otherwise, I didn't know anything really about it.
But yet you were led to embrace a different religion, a new religion, one that was very different than Judaism, very progressive.
Yeah, because it made sense. All the others didn't make any sense at all. They didn't make sense because they didn't belong to this age. It was only when we were told about the Baha'i faith that it was logical. It made sense. Therefore, it was true. Progressive revelation just was logical. Nothing else was. The other religions that all broke up into sects and fought with each other and so on. Who wants that? Doesn't do anything.
And you and Sue were very, very active Baha'is.
Yeah, because that was our lives. It's still my life. That is what life is. It's following what God wants you to follow at this particular time in history.
Mm-hmm. Gives purpose to our lives, doesn't it?
It has the answers to the problems of today, not of 2,000 years ago or 3,000 years ago. But that's progressive revelation. So it's the only thing that makes sense. Nothing else makes sense.
Very good. Oh my gosh. Sylvia, do you hear that?
Yes. Okay, what is that music?
That is Womanosity's 25 questions in 2 minutes speed round. Now listen, Sylvia, I'm going to ask you these 25 questions in 2 minutes. That's all you get, 2 minutes. I'll give you 2 passes if you can't or won't answer a question. Other than that, that's all you get. I hear the clock ticking. Are you ready to go?
As ready as I can be.
Think you can handle this?
Oh, I can handle anything.
I believe you too. Okay, what color or flavor is your favorite M&M?
Green.
Are you a cat or a dog person?
Dog.
Would you rather eat chocolate or watch your favorite TV show?
Eat chocolate.
What's the one city you always dreamed of traveling to?
Florence.
Italy. Oh. Are you a morning or night person?
Let me say night. I'm a night person.
Okay. What words do you live by, Sylvia?
The words of Baha'u'llah. The earth is one country and mankind its citizens.
Oh, those are beautiful words. What's one vice you wish you could give up?
I can't think of any other vice that I've got. Isn't that ridiculous? I must have some, but I can't think of any. I don't smoke, I don't drink.
Well, you might not have any vices then to give up. Okay, what's the best compliment you've ever received?
From my father, when I was a little girl, and somebody would say, "Oh, isn't she pretty?" And he would say, "And clever."
That's a nice compliment. That's good. How do you start your day, Sylvia?
With a drink of lemon and honey.
Lovely. When are you most inspired?
I think when I'm practicing.
Food, sweet or savory?
Both. I like both.
What makes you smile the most?
You do.
Oh, you are so sweet. What's the one thing people don't know about you, Sylvia?
You see, I haven't got any secrets, so I don't know.
You piloted planes.
Well, I don't suppose everybody knows that, but I don't think there's anything. I'm a very open person, and I'm not frightened of saying what I do and what I believe and so on. So I don't think I've got any secrets at all.
How about heels, flats, or sneakers?
I think sneakers.
Okay. What's inspiring you in life right now?
My friends. I've got quite a few friends in Swellendam.
What a beautiful response. You're always popular wherever you go, Sylvia. You attract people. You collect them, and they love you. So tell me then, what's the most adventurous thing you've done in your life?
I suppose flying.
As a pilot. That was pretty adventurous as a young girl. Juice. How would you define yourself in 3 words?
I'm healthy and I'm happy. Always looking forward.
Beautiful. Diamonds or pearls?
I say I don't really know what I like, diamonds or pearls. I've got both, but I don't know what I like best. They're not very important.
Diamonds or pearls?
Diamonds.
What's something you notice about someone when you first meet them?
You won't believe it, but it's their nose.
I believe it. What's the one talent you wish you had?
To be able to speak more easily. You know, if I'm asked to say something in public, I almost go tongue-tied. I don't know what to say. After a concert, for instance, and people maybe say something nice about me, and then I want to respond to that, I'm like tongue-tied. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to say it. I probably do say something, but I feel it like an idiot, you know, that I can't talk. I can't just get up. So many people can just get up and talk. I can't do that. I just can't do it.
I'm surprised. What's your favorite color, Sylvia?
It's turquoise.
What color of clothing do you wear the most?
It's between blue and red.
What's the cutest thing on planet Earth?
A little Yorkie dog.
Little Yorkies are awfully doggone cute. So what's the best thing that's happened to you this year?
I think it's going out with friends for a meal. So that happens not just once, you know, just occasionally. It happens when I go out for a meal with friends. I enjoy that very much.
It's so true. Well, in a time of COVID, it's been very difficult to make that happen, but I'm very glad you've been able to. Oh my goodness, our time is up. Time is up. So glad to have had you in the studio today, Sylvia. Thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm most honored. I really am. And your introductions and everything are really something.
You deserve every word. You are so welcome. You know, of all of the composers that are your favorites, I have one of your performances of one of those composers. The composer is Frank Bridge, but oh my goodness, we want to listen to this beautiful piece he composed called Rosemary. It's actually a soundtrack to a beautiful music video about the Baha'i gardens in Haifa, Israel. Take a listen, folks. Thank you for being with me today on Womanosity for Women with Curiosity, broadcasting globally on Woman Radio. We'll enjoy great interviews with remarkable women and music from around the world. Join me, won't you?